Hi, Caroline Carney here at Powell Lane Arts with
Carol Taylor Carney.
and we're here to give you an explainer video about our fall show, Disrupted Realism, which will run from September 20th through November 9th, 2025. The submission deadline for this is on the 22nd of this month, which is July, so July 22nd. It'll be due at 11:59 p.m. And we wanted to give you kind of a nice idea of what disruptive realism is. So Carol, take it away.
Okay, so I am going to start with the definition right off of Google. And it says, disruptive realism as an art movement describes work that intentionally deviates from the traditional norms of what we think of as realism. And this can be done by using elements like line, form, color to express a more subjective realism of the artist. By that, think in terms of Van Gogh and his Starry Night. We all can sit there and say, there's the town, there's the trees, there's the sky, there's the stars. And yet it doesn't look like exactly what we would find if we walked out and looked at the same scene.
And yet there's other subjective elements within that feel more experiential to how we perceive light, line, time, memory.
Exactly. So it has a lot to do with the experience of looking at an object or at something, and then taking it into our imagination and our subjective beings and seeing what comes out from that. It can fall into areas of abstraction, and it can be very representational. That's the beauty of disruptive realism. And it usually does tell some sort of story.
Well, and also I think for our purposes, we're for sure not the first gallery who has done this as a theme, but one of the things that's interesting about it, and I think what galleries and art directors and curators find interesting about it is it's a type of art that is being developed in real time. And so it is so recent that there is no standard definition of it yet. And so it is a very rich subject for like artists to go, fertile ground for artists to cover.
Right, so we have a couple pieces from our present show that we are going to be showing you that might help juice the creative spirit in you. That's what we hope. So I will let Caroline start.
But also know that this is not exhaustive because as usual, we are genuinely always curious as to how artists are going to interpret the theme. And so this is not an exhaustive list. This is just if you need some ideas, some good ideas. So I'm going to start with Little Bo Peep by Darlene Foster. And I know what you're thinking. You're looking at this and you say, this is a Southern Gothic fairy tale that might be a little bit dark. How is this disruptive realism? And the answer is very simple to us, I think, which is Darlene is wonderful at combining real life imagery and vintage imagery to create images that are fantastical but feel and evoke an idea of memory. Thus, she's taking something that seems realistic, like
you know what each of these objects are in here.
And it is a photograph. It is a series of photographs that have been combined together. But she is using subjective experience to tone it and evoke these ideas of memory and light and story.
I have Puffs of Happiness by Maria Morales. And on the one hand, you look at it and you can see that these are some sort of flowery thing. They're soft. They're exactly what she says, puffs, surrounded by other colorful puffs. It's expressionistic, it's abstracted, and yet it looks like it's based on a real life experience. And she's using color, shape, and the paint itself to go and give us the subject of Puffs of Happiness. And doesn't this bring you joy?
This is by Kimberly Stemler. It's called Scones and Macaroons. And this tends more towards the abstraction. And in fact, it probably is less abstracted on camera than it is in person. And what it is Kimberly reduced this to the simple elements. She used a doily and lace to kind of create these forms. And then she was combining the minimal amount of information needed to evoke this memory of a tea or a luncheon or scones or treats in a specific space with specific people and things like that. And so it both looks, when you look at it, like a teacup with a sunny background and a table, but also it is abstracted in a way that also brings in design elements that are really interesting as well.
And a lot of texture.
A lot of texture.
Is this the final? It's a cute little nugget. Yeah, it is.
Nugget.
Is this the final?
I'll put out a couple on the wall.
Oh, wait, I was going to do this.
But yeah, do that one first.
I'm doing this because this one's mine.
That's right.
That's right. This is my hand.
Our creepy little hands.
My creepy little hands. And so, of course, everyone can recognize that this is a creepy little hand. And to this creepy little hand, before I even got started, I just started with a background of collaged flowers. And once I did that, and I put the hand in a way that I thought evoked the flowers, whether it's this way or this way or this way or this way, I also had these folds that, to me, it looked like I always want to touch flowers. And I always want to play with things with my hand. And so my hand is playing or making these little doodads to rotate around with all the rest of the rotation.
Yeah, and they evoke the idea of a flower without actually being a flower. And even the flowers which you have collaged and painted and image transferred are hyper color.
Right.
And even the hand is not hand colored, if not hand, why hand shaped?
And it's sewn on, which makes it even better.
And so she's evoking this idea of elements that we are aware of, but putting a more subjective view on it. I think you're probably getting the theme by now. We also have, over here, we have a piece called Saginaw Bay Spring by Rory Keogh. And in this piece, she's used fiber and fiber arts, so fabrics, trims, upholstery, to create lace, embroidery to create a landscape. And the thing is that you can look at this and know exactly what it is. And yet, because it is fiber arts, she's taking elements of fabric and repurposing them to tell the story of this landscape, both making it representational and also, by the very nature that it's not photorealistic, making it abstracted. So I think that is a very interesting piece. At the very top, we have Sky Raper by Mer Heyman. We also have one right here called House of Wax. And as you can see, these are definite pieces of architecture, but she's playing with ombre, she's playing with sgraffito, she's playing with things that make these recognizable but not photorealistic.
And she's constructing them. And when you think of architecture, you think of construction. So she's layering thoughts in order to come up with her message that comes out quite clearly. Similarly, Maureen Bowie, all the way at the top, it started with that red shed. And the red shed somehow became connected with Maureen to the shape that's inverted at the bottom.
That looks almost like corrugated metal.
Yeah. So she's playing with the elements of things that we, on the one hand, recognize, and on the other hand, she's made in order to distill the story of what's going on in here.
Even the way that the image transfer, which is in the top left-hand, yes, I did have to look at my hand for direction, top left-hand corner of that, it seems to assemble and dissemble from the different areas of it in a way that evokes memory that is very much of a piece with the idea of disruptive realism and this idea that it is playing with time and memory and how images coalesce for the artist. I think the last one that I wanted to point out is actually all the way up at the top here. It's called Cityscape 1 by Iris Holter Richardson. And one of the things I think is interesting about this is it clearly is exactly what it's titled. It's a cityscape. But in the way that she is combining and scraping and making these shapes and colors, they move in and out of focus and in and out of different perspectives in a way that feels very much like approaching a city as you drive in it. It has a dreamy-like quality that I think is non-photorealistic, but very apt to an experiential idea of realism.
So you can see within disruptive realism, you can take a photorealistic piece and through the elements in drawing and painting or sculpting, make it into a disrupted piece where you're presenting not just the scene, but something subjective from your subjective point of the scene.
Even when we're going to be honest with you, we would have had to take a ton of stuff off the walls, and we just didn't think that was going to be a good idea. But even when we're looking at, we have 2 drawings by Barbara Dove in the show, and they are primarily monochromatic colored pencil drawings, and they are photorealistic to the point where some people think they are photorealistic. But one of the, like a photo, but one of the things that's interesting about them is that the way that Barbara is manipulating color and line to make it an effective piece is actually playing more with how we perceive our environment and not how a camera would perceive it, which is a really interesting thing. Or Julianne Affronti with her collage about mental health that has a face and prescriptions. You can see all these on our website. And a walking brain.
And don't forget Brian Hallis.
Brian Hallis with his architecture that is overlaid and makes almost Escher-like staircases and things like that. So there's a lot of, or even Drew Scarpa's seascapes where the sky and the sea meet each other. And you can tell what it is, but if you take each individual piece, it's not true to life, but it's true to experience.
Yes.
I mean, it is true-ish to life. But so hopefully this gives you some idea of how that manifests. Now I'm looking at Andy Olson's, which also does that. There's a ton of stuff in the show that would fit it. Oh, I have the card. July 22nd is the submission deadline at 11:59 p.m. So basically, as it turns into midnight of July 23rd is when this is due. And it is for our fall show, Disruptive Realism, that will be from September 20th through November 9th, the day before your birthday. Thank you.